Hello, curious minds! Welcome to a new intellectual exploration. Today we travel back in time to an era of absolute chaos, to unearth a manual that has survived for over 2,500 years and continues to dictate the rules of power. I'm talking about The Art of War. But forget what you think you know. It's not a book about how to kill or destroy. It's a philosophical treatise on how to avoid conflict, how to understand the human mind, and how to flow with circumstances like water. The big question guiding us today is profound. How is it possible for a military text to be, at its core, a pacifist manifesto based on Taoism? How can war become an act of supreme intelligence instead of brute force? Before we begin, a brief note. To bring this narration to life, I've used artificial intelligence tools to generate the images you see. Think of them as a canvas, a way to illustrate the ideas and the atmosphere of our story. They won't always be a literal representation, but rather a visual accompaniment to let your imagination fly with me. I truly hope you enjoy it, and that it helps you immerse yourselves in the atmosphere of ancient China and pure strategy. To understand Sun Tzu, we must look at the context. We are in the Warring States period in China. Imagine centuries of incessant wars, betrayals, and bloodshed. The social order had completely collapsed in the face of ambition. Amidst this chaos, the need for order arises. Not an order imposed only by the sword, but by the mind. Sun Tzu wasn't a bloodthirsty barbarian. He was a general who understood that war is a necessary evil that must be brief. The central thesis of his work breaks with Western tradition. In the West, thinkers like Clausewitz saw war as a clash of massive forces. Sun Tzu, however, sees it as a game of deception, psychology, and strategic positioning. This is where Taoist philosophy comes in. The Tao, or the Way, is the fundamental principle that governs the universe. Sun Tzu applies this mystical concept to the carnage of the battlefield. War, for him, must follow the natural order. The first principle Sun Tzu establishes is the importance of planning. He says that victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Think about that for a moment. This applies to everything. In business, in a debate, in life. If you enter a conflict without having secured your position of advantage beforehand, you've already lost. The battle is just the confirmation of a prior calculation. This prior calculation is based on 5 fundamental factors that he details. The first is the moral law. This refers to the harmony between the people and their ruler. If there is no just cause and unity, no military strategy will work. The second factor is heaven, representing weather conditions and time. The third is earth, which is terrain and distance. A good strategist does not fight against nature, they use it to their advantage. The fourth is the commander, defined by wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and discipline. And the fifth is method and discipline, the structure of the army. Notice that technology or the number of soldiers are not the first priority. Now let's enter the heart of applied Taoism, the concept of Wu Wei, or action through inaction. Sun Tzu tells us that supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. That is the pinnacle of the art. Imagine demoralizing your opponent, dividing their alliances, or cutting their supplies in such a way that they surrender before the first arrow flies. That is preserving the state. Destroying a city to capture it is, for Sun Tzu, a failure. To achieve this, deception is vital. Sun Tzu writes the famous phrase, "All warfare is based on deception. If you are capable, feign incapacity. If you are near, make it appear you are far. If you are far, make it appear you are near." This isn't just lying for the sake of it. It's manipulating the adversary's perception. The goal is for the enemy to react to an illusion, wasting their energy and resources on nothing, while you conserve your strength for the decisive moment. Here we touch upon the concept of the void and the full. An army must be like water. Water avoids the heights and rushes toward the lowlands. In the same way, an army must avoid the enemy's strength and attack their voids. Never attack where the enemy expects it and is strong. Flow toward their weak points. This adaptability is what makes a general invincible. Having no constant form but changing according to the opponent, that is what he calls divine. But to attack the voids, you first need information. Sun Tzu is one of the first to emphasize the systematic use of spies. You cannot base your decisions on superstition or guesswork. You need real knowledge of the terrain and the rival. This leads to his most famous quote, "Know the enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles, you will never be in peril." Let's analyze this carefully because the second part is what we often forget. Self-knowledge. Knowing oneself implies brutal honesty. What are my weaknesses? Where is my arrogance? Sun Tzu warns that generals can be defeated by their own character flaws, such as anger or excessive pride. If you know the enemy but not yourself, for every victory you will suffer a defeat. And if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will lose every battle. It's a mathematical equation of survival based on information and psychology. Let's talk about speed now. Sun Tzu says, "Speed is the essence of war. Take advantage of the enemy's lack of preparation, travel by unexpected routes, and attack where they are not protected. Slowness is the death of strategy. But speed is not haste. It is the rapid execution of a deliberate plan. It's the lightning that strikes before you hear the thunder. To achieve this, the chain of command must be clear and orders must be unequivocal." Sun Tzu also speaks about terrain. He classifies 9 types of terrain, from dispersive ground to death ground. On death ground, where there is no escape, your soldiers will fight with the desperation of someone who has nothing to lose. Sometimes a leader must deliberately place their people on death ground. When the only option is to fight or die, fear transforms into unshakable courage. It's extreme psychology, but effective in dire situations. This leads us to leadership. Sun Tzu's general is not an action hero charging at the front. He is a cold and serene calculator. He must be inscrutable. No one should know his plans until they have already been executed. The leader must treat his soldiers like his own beloved children, and they will follow him into the deepest valley. But if he is too indulgent and can't impose his authority, they will be like spoiled children, useless. It's a delicate balance between love and terror. Discipline must be ironclad, but rewards must be fair. Sun Tzu understood that morale is not sustained by fear alone, but by the belief in victory and benefit. Another fascinating concept is energy, or shi. Imagine a round boulder at the top of a mountain 3,000 meters high. The potential energy is immense. The skillful general creates that situation and then simply pushes the rock. It's not about the general pushing with his physical strength, but about positioning his forces in such a way that the attack is unstoppable through pure situational physics. The momentum of the battle must flow in your favor. You must not force it. Sun Tzu also warns against prolonged warfare. No nation has ever benefited from a long war. War drains the treasury, exhausts the people, and creates internal instability. Rapid victory is the only viable goal. This is very relevant today. Think of modern conflicts that drag on forever. Sun Tzu would say that is a failure of strategy. If you can't win quickly, you probably shouldn't have started. Let's go back to deception. Sun Tzu says, offer the enemy bait to lure him, feign disorder, and crush him. This requires tremendous mental discipline. You have to be willing to appear weak, to swallow your momentary pride. It is the antithesis of the ego. Many leaders fail because they want to look strong all the time. Sun Tzu teaches us that the appearance of strength is often fragility, and the appearance of weakness can be the deadliest trap. Let's talk about alliances. Sun Tzu advises not to form alliances with neighboring princes unless you know their designs. In the modern world, this is due diligence. Don't partner with someone you don't fully understand. Sun Tzu's strategy is ultimately conservative. Don't bet everything on a single card unless it's unavoidable. Always leave a way out for yourself, and interestingly, sometimes you must leave a way out for your enemy. To a surrounded enemy, you must leave an escape route. Why? Because if you corner them completely, they will fight to the death. If they see a way out, their will to fight will break and they will flee, and then you can defeat them at a lower cost. This is pure psychology. You want to break their mind, not just their body. War is a duel of wills. If you can make the enemy general doubt, be confused, or be afraid you've already won half the battle without moving a soldier, Sun Tzu's approach is holistic. He doesn't separate politics from war. War is the continuation of politics. The general must understand the sovereign's political goals and align with them. There is no military victory without a political objective. But what happens when the sovereign's orders are bad? Sun Tzu is clear. If fighting ensures victory, then you must fight, even if the ruler forbids it. If fighting does not ensure victory, you must not fight, even if the ruler orders it. This requires immense civil courage. Loyalty to the state is above blind obedience to the monarch. The true servant protects the people and the state, even if it means disobeying a direct, erroneous order. Now, let's reflect on applying this in the corporate world. The market is the battlefield. Companies are the armies. Market share is the territory. Sun Tzu's principles are studied in business schools for a reason. Launching a product, an attack, requires knowing the terrain, the market, knowing the enemy, the competition, and knowing yourself, your capabilities. If you ignore this and just launch for the sake of it, failure is almost certain. It also applies to negotiation. Never corner your counterpart so that they lose all their dignity. Leave them a way out, a way to save face. If you humiliate them, you will create a lifelong enemy who will seek revenge. And in personal life, how many times do we get into useless arguments? Sun Tzu would ask us, is this a battle worth winning? What is the cost? Sometimes a strategic retreat or silence is the greatest victory. The concept of forming the formless is key. When you have no fixed form, the enemy cannot prepare against you. Be unpredictable. Don't let your routines define you to the point of becoming vulnerable. Sun Tzu teaches us to value intelligence over strength. In a world that often glorifies the loudest and most aggressive, the art of war is a reminder that real power is silent, subtle, and calculating. Let's review the use of fire. Sun Tzu devotes an entire chapter to attack by fire. It's the use of devastating weapons. But he warns, don't use fire if you cannot take advantage of the confusion it generates. Destruction alone is not the end. Fire should be used to move the enemy, to create chaos. It's a tool, not a final solution. Today, fire could be an aggressive PR campaign or a disruptive innovation. Use it carefully. There is a passage about the morality of spies. Sun Tzu says that only a wise ruler can use the most intelligent as spies and achieve great results. Information is the most expensive and valuable asset. Without information, the general is blind. It's like a man stumbling in a dark room full of sharp furniture. Investment in knowledge always pays the best interest in war and in life. Adaptability is the recurring theme. Sun Tzu says, just as water has no constant form, in war there are no constant conditions. What worked yesterday can kill you today. Dogma is the enemy. This is crucial. Many generals fail because they try to fight the last war. They use old tactics in new contexts. The strategist's mind must always be fresh, observing the present as it is, not as they wish it to be. Unity of command is another pillar. If the sovereign interferes too much from the palace, the army in the field becomes confused. You must trust the expert on the ground. Micromanagement is fatal in strategy. Sun Tzu also talks about the 5 dangerous faults of a general. If he is reckless, he can be killed. If he is cowardly, he can be captured. If he is hasty-tempered, he can be provoked. If he is vain, he can be slandered. And the 5th, if he is too compassionate with his men, he can be harassed and worn out. This sounds harsh, but a leader cannot afford to let empathy paralyze their ability to make difficult decisions for the greater good. At its core, the art of war is a study of efficiency, winning with minimum effort, minimum cost, and minimum time. It's a philosophy of vital economy. Why spend 1,000 ounces of gold if you can spend 100? This efficiency is achieved through position. If you place yourself at the top of the hill before the enemy, you have the advantage without spending energy. The fight begins long before physical contact. It begins with logistics. The book also teaches us to read the signs. If birds rise suddenly, there is an ambush. If there are dust clouds in high columns, chariots are coming. Keen observation of details reveals the hidden truth. This invites us to be present. We are often so caught up in our plans that we ignore the signals from our environment. Sun Tzu demands a mindful, almost meditative attention to the reality surrounding us. Sun Tzu's strategy is dynamic, not static. It's a dance with the opponent. You move, they respond, you adapt. It's not a fixed script. It's an improvisation based on solid principles. Let's talk about surprise. Attack when they are lax. Retreat when they are alert. Surprise unbalances the opponent's mind, and an unbalanced mind cannot formulate good tactics. But be careful, surprise doesn't work the same way twice. Once you've used a trick, the enemy will learn. Constant innovation is necessary. You can't be a one-trick pony in war. Sun Tzu values logistical preparation. An army marches on its stomach. If you cut the supply lines, the bravest army will dissolve. Amateurs talk about tactics, professionals talk about logistics. This is vital in business. You can have the best product, but if your supply chain fails, or if you run out of cash flow, which is the business's supply, you will die. The support structure is as important as the tip of the spear. Sun Tzu's philosophy is deeply pragmatic. There is no room for chivalrous honor if it means losing and dooming your people. The morality of war is winning to end the suffering quickly. This may seem cynical, but it's realistic. In a world of warring states, naive nobility is a death sentence. Sun Tzu advocates for an ethics of responsibility. Do what is necessary to protect what is yours. The legacy of this book is immense. Mao Zedong used it to defeat the Kuomintang. American generals read it before the Gulf War. It's a universal language of conflict and resolution, but its beauty lies in the fact that it transcends the military. It teaches us to manage our own internal resources. Our energy, our time, our attention. Are we fighting battles we cannot win? It teaches us not to react impulsively to provocation, to be masters of our emotions, to wait for the right moment. Patience is not passivity, it is an action of waiting charged with intention. In the end, Sun Tzu's ideal warrior is one so skilled that their victory goes unnoticed. There are no heroic deeds because they solved the problem before it became a crisis. They win with ease. People praise the general who wins a bloody battle. Sun Tzu praises the general who avoids the battle and still achieves the objective. That subtlety is hard to applaud, but it is true mastery. So what do we take away today? That brute force is the last resort, that the mind is the most powerful weapon, and that true victory is not leaving a trail of destruction, but maintaining balance and peace. Sun Tzu invites us to be strategists of our own lives, to look at the whole board, to understand that sometimes taking one step back today allows us to move 2 steps forward tomorrow. To flow like water, not crash like stone. In a loud and conflicted world, Sun Tzu's silent wisdom is more necessary than ever. He reminds us that conflict is inevitable, but violence is optional. Strategy is the bridge between the two. I hope this analysis has changed how you view conflict, not as something to fear, but as a puzzle to solve, with intelligence, preparation, and calm. The lessons from 2 millennia ago resonate because human nature hasn't changed. We are still driven by fear, honor, and interest. Sun Tzu simply gave us the map to navigate these turbulent waters. If we apply the Tao of Conflict, we can find harmony even in discord. We can transform our challenges into opportunities. We can win without fighting. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time and strategy. It's been an honor breaking down these ideas with you. If this content has provided value to you, I invite you to subscribe and share it. Leave a comment. What is your favorite Sun Tzu strategy and how would you apply it today?